The transition to the Trump administration, like all presidential transitions, has moved into that inevitable phase in which it's producing a parlor game in Washington in which everybody is engaging in wild speculation about who's going to get which job when President Trump takes office. The most interesting speculation actually is about who's going to be Secretary of State. It looked initially, and still may be, that Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York and a real ally of Donald Trump's throughout the presidential campaign, was going to get the job, had the inside track. But for the last couple of days, there's been a lot of speculation about other names. And the speculation is interesting because of the categories of people who are being discussed. Some are very conventional. Senator Bob Corker, who's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, General David Petraeus, who also was head of the CIA. They have the kind of normal foreign relations, national security backgrounds that you'd expect to see in a potential Secretary of State. Then there's some odd fit candidates like John Bolton, a national security expert, but who is much more hawkish than Donald Trump has been. He was a big champion of the war in Iraq. Donald Trump said it was a huge mistake, which makes you wonder how that could work if he were picked as Secretary of State. And then there are just some strange names that are floating out there. Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina visited Donald Trump this week. She's being discussed, as well as Mitt Romney, who's going to see Mr. Trump and who's now all of a sudden being speculated about as potential Secretary of State. Now, it's hard to know what speculation is real, what people are making up, and what names are just being floated because it helps satisfy certain constituencies out there. But I do think in the end, this means that when the choice is finally made, perhaps next week, for a Secretary of State, it's going to be one of the more interesting announcements.